have the best book show ever. I'm your host, Beth Albright, and I am so excited to have one of my closest friends in the industry and someone that I aspire to be more like, Kaira Rouda. Best-selling author Kaira Rouda, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Beth.
You have had the most unbelievable roadmap of a career. No, I don't think anybody else could follow it. You started actually in nonfiction. Let's dig into that. Tell me a little bit about that and what you were doing at the time. What was your life like then?
Well, I mean, I don't think I have a roadmap. It just kind of unfolds. You know how they say best laid plans. So I think mostly it just kind of happened. I mean, I knew I always wanted to write since third grade. I knew I wanted to be a novelist. But when my first book came out, it was a surprise because I was running a residential real estate franchise company called Real Living and a brand I'd created. So I'd been speaking to our real estate agents across the country and franchisees about how to build a personal brand and how to put your passions into action and build, in this case, a business, specifically because 60% of our agents were women, specifically speaking to women entrepreneurs. So as I was doing that, I kind of got asked to write a book. And so I did. I wrote this proposal and I sent it to an agent and to a publisher because I didn't know that you're not allowed to do that back then. And I got a call from Wiley and from an agent on the same day. She's like, don't call them back. I'll call them back for you. So anyway, so that happened. So Real You Incorporated came about and it's 8 essentials for women entrepreneurs and kind of a roadmap on how to build a personal brand and then put that personal brand into the business you love.
And you actually took your own advice and did the same thing.
Eventually. Eventually. Because I was not, I love marketing as well. My dad's a marketing professor. So it's kind of like I say I had my marketing MBA growing up. And so I was doing that. And I love that side of the business too. But I did always want to write a novel. So I finally did. I was speaking to a group of women after my book came out. Did a book tour and I realized I was telling all of them to put their passion into action and live the life of their dreams. And then I went home and I'm like, wait a minute, are you doing that? And I was, that's when I sat down.
So that's your first novel then came out of that. You had of your own advice.
Yeah.
Gosh. And it did. That essential, tell me the name of that book again.
So my first book was Real You Incorporated, 8 Essentials for Women Entrepreneurs.
And it's still out there, right?
Yeah.
So
and then my first fiction book was called Is Here Home Hope. And in that you meet a woman who's trying to change her life and she has a whole things to change list. And it was similarly in tone to the nonfiction book, kind of empowering.
It's interesting you talk about fictionalizing your real life because everything, we're going to get to that in a minute, but everything took a really big turn for you because you were writing. We'll go there in just a second because it's quite the U-turn. But you were in Columbus, Ohio, and you kind of, wanted to materialize everything that you have now. So with just writing the novel, how did that happen? Because some people say, oh, I just want to write a novel and it'll change my life. And it doesn't really happen for them. How did you make it happen for you?
I think, I think you really want to, you need to want to do it. And of course, unless you're writing a memoir, it's not your life story. It's something from the imagination, right? So it's based on your experiences because you do write what you know in a sense, but it's all twisted around and it's all a different story. So fortunately for me, the muse, she's always been kind of there hovering. And as Picasso said, inspiration is everywhere, but you have to be sitting and doing the work for it to come to you. So I think that's the main thing is just to get started and just start writing.
Yeah. Well, you have literally been one of my biggest inspirations because you are writing women's fiction and some romance.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden you took this giant U-turn and I'm going to hold the book up because I love this book. Best Day Ever comes out and it's in the voice of a man on top of everything else. I mean, that's quite a U-turn from Here Home Hope and The Goodbye Year, which I adored. And all of a sudden now this is creepy Kaira. Where did that come from?
Isn't it weird? I just kept getting darker and darker and darker. Yeah. And I
what the heck's going on in your life, Kaira?
Yeah, I think it was funny. I had I'll never forget a lunch with another author locally around here, and she was sitting across from me, and I was talking about Goodbye Year and how it was gonna have some darkness in it, which it does. And she like spit out her coffee. She's like, "You don't write dark. You're light and happy." I'm like, I write dark. I think again, you write what you know. Best Day Ever came about when I was writing another kind of sweet women's fiction. It was going to be a series about moms and fight over a salad bar at school. Anyway, and that my agent was editing or reviewing, and all of a sudden, Paul from Best Day Ever popped into my head, and you know. Paul was based, I think now, I didn't realize at the time, on all my spectacularly bad bosses over the years in the marketing
Oh,
fields. Like I had Myron and the ad agency, I had Wes and the company, like there were just tons of them. And so kind of that misogynistic, domineering,
alpha.
um, alpha
Yeah.
narcissist. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he
Yeah.
kind of popped into my head. Yeah. And it was kind of cathartic to get all of them out of here and onto the page in the form of Paul. So it was
But
fun.
you're speaking as a man. I mean, that to
Yes.
me is the most unbelievable thing for the, for you, because the whole style of speaking and the mannerism and the word choice even is so different. How did you get into his head?
Well, I credit actually writing romance for 2 years with helping me because that was the first time that I'd actually written a male character. Because at least in the kind of sweet romances that I was writing, it was you'd have the man and the woman and the guy was talking for the first time. And so the first time I wrote from a male perspective, I showed my husband. He's like, "We do not talk like that. What is this? This is not right." So it kind of was like a wake up call lesson, but I think because Paul was so in my head for all these years and just that type of a personality, I didn't even show anybody the first draft. It just kind of came out really quickly. And I think that's one of the magic things, like Elizabeth Gilbert talks about the magic hour. I think when those things start happening and flowing, Best Ever is a great example of that. It just came out. He was so present in my imagination that I would wake up in the morning and he'd be there. I'd look at bed at night, he's still there. So it wasn't hard to write from his perspective because he was so there.
Yeah.
He's still kind of back there. Yeah.
Creepy,
I know.
creepy. He's so creepy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
awful. So another awful, creepy character. This was the one that, I mean, even more so than Paul. This mom in this book was the worst woman I've ever read. And her creepy conversations with her driver. Oh my God, where did she come from? And I have another question, but it just popped into my head. I'm going to get to that in a minute. Where did that terrible mother come from?
Jane, again, I think that was more of the societal instinct to feel like moms are always good, and the ability to hide if you have enough money to do so. So Jane's a privileged wife living in a gated community. She has everything money can buy, but she's a little loony. So she
A little, a
a
little.
little loony. So I think, but she's been behind the scenes. Like, I mean, people think she's a normal housewife, right? So and that was harder to write because I do think most moms are good. They work really hard, but in this particular case, she wasn't what she seemed. And I mean, I like Jane because she has a really wicked sense of humor. She's
Mhm.
fixated about ways you can die suddenly in your home, which I didn't know until I started writing her that she would be fixated like that about, like death by dishwasher or,
Yeah.
just all kinds of things that she'll surprise you with. And she may be doing that to distract you from what she's actually up to. But yeah, she was fun to write. And
Yeah. Particular inspiration. I mean, do you know people that do you ever take characters? I know as a writer, I like to take little pieces of different people and meld them together into one person. Do you do that?
I guess I do. I think it's more subconscious than consciously. I mean, I'll look through People magazine to get like photo inspirations of people sometimes. I mean, that kind of helps. But as far as their personalities, they just kind of develop. And I'm a pantser. So that
Yeah.
means that I'm not great at outlining, although I'm learning in my old age that people really like an outline, like my agents and
People meeting
publishers and
agents,
all that.
publishers. Yeah. Where are you
Yeah.
going with
I'm
this?
like, oh, you guys are so boring. But
And
I'm learning how to do it. Yeah.
yeah.
So, but before then, I had to outline. My characters were just kind of out there in the universe, their characters wise, and so they must be combinations of people I've met along the way.
Hmm. Let's hope we don't ever have to run into Jane because
No, we don't want
you know
anything. Oh,
the
no,
book
we
is. I think I read that book in literally one sitting. We were on a road trip that was a long way, and I read the entire thing like over
Wow.
10 or 12 hours. Yeah, I just couldn't put it down because she's so awful that she makes you turn the pages.
Yeah,
So,
she's trying to be entertained with her charming wit. Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, she and Paul are both like what you would call malignant narcissists, and some people say that's what they are. I don't really, I'm not a psychiatrist, so I don't know for sure what they are. But I mean, the thing about them is there's estimated to be 5 to 10% of the population. So you do know these people. They are out there in the world. They
oh,
are at
yeah.
dinner parties with you, and I mean, they're there. So
But most people want to get away from them, and you want to in their
I
voice.
want to like shine a light on them so people can see them. I mean, really, it's true. Like I'm like, oh my gosh, I actually think I've developed this like second sense, so I know when they're in the room.
Yeah.
It's kind of
Oh,
crazy.
yeah. You can feel it when they come in. It's all about them.
Yeah.
So Ruth Ware, Lisa Jewell, these are some of my other really favorite writers, and you're kind of in that category. But they are writing about the hunted and the injured. Your people are the ones that are doing the hunting and the injuring,
Yes.
and they are the voice. You're writing. The thing that's so unique, and I've never run across this in reading any other novelist, is you write in the voice of the bad guy. So who are we rooting for? It's really different. How did you feel that the reader might not be rooting for your narrator?
Yeah. I mean, I that's a thing. I mean, I want you hopefully you find a little piece of Jane and a little piece of Tish in my next book.
Yep.
The next one, like hopefully you find a little piece of them to be charming because I don't want you to hate them off the bat. But you're right, I do give voice to the bad guys,
Yeah.
and maybe you feel nervous for the people in their lives. That's and because for the most part everybody else is good, right?
Mhm.
So there's just that
But you're
tension.
rooting for them not to win then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think so. Yeah, you probably should be.
Yeah. Or maybe you're one of those terrible people.
Okay. If you're not, if you're on their side, what does that say? I'm not sure, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
probably true.
Oh, it's so creepy. It almost gives me the chills just talking about it.
Uh-huh.
So how's it been for you trying to write during the pandemic?
Yeah, the pandemic has been weird, hasn't it? Because it kind of went in waves. At least for me, like the first one was like hunker down and grow vegetables because
You
for
did.
sure
And the pictures were wonderful.
there's never going to be
Be
a
like
grocery store.
Kara. How come I can't be like Kara?
Oh, stop it. No, and so that was funny. So I don't know what that was about, but I do like gardening. It's just like it was almost like I must garden. And then it came to like, oh shoot, okay, so we're gonna be here for a while. You probably should start trying to get a regular sense of order back together. And for me, that's always been writing and sitting up here in my office and
Mhm.
trying to get words on the page. And so I did that. I did a couple novels, which was, fun because I love the creative part. And then, and then my agent didn't like either of them. So that was not fun. So now
It's
I'm back.
awful. Yes.
Yeah, now I'm in the third phase of the pandemic, I like to call it. It's the hoping for a vaccine phase, the slowing down and learning how to outline phase. And slowly, all of my children have gone back out into the world. So then it will be back to empty nesting, I'm assuming at some point.
Did they
Yeah.
all come home during the pandemic?
Phase one. Yeah. Phase one, they were all back because
That's
they're in
good.
LA. And
That feels good though, doesn't it? It's like, okay,
yeah,
we're all
yeah. I'm
hunkering
like,
down together. You
"No,
knew everybody was
you
safe.
don't yeah, it was
Yeah.
good. So everybody's here, and then they slowly like went back when their jobs started back up again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So everybody's. I have one more left. She's maybe not in March, and then I'll be sad again. So empty days again.
But it's good that the writing is there, and that's how you can fill your creative juices and your time. You have something. Some people, not to put anybody down who's doing puzzles, but I don't think I could do that all day long. I want to kill myself. I have to be
Yeah.
creating something that didn't exist before, and I love creating the characters. I think you do. You have that same feeling that it's all about the people you're writing about. So that leads me into
Yeah.
this next book, which comes out on my birthday on May 1st. It's called The Next
Oh,
Wife. Yeah, that'll be a great birthday
aw.
present because I'll pre-order. So The Next Wife is coming out. Let's talk about these two women. It's a first wife and a second wife. Would you call it a cat and mouse type of thing?
I guess that's probably, is that like a genre that I'm supposed to know, but I'm so bad about knowing about. There's some books I kind of just wing it. Again, not a good approach for most novelists, just saying.
We both
Yes,
do
I
our
would.
own thing, don't fit into any category. And that's why I just use you as my inspiration, just so you know. Behind the scenes, I'm like, what's Kaira doing? Okay, I'll do that too.
Yeah. Kara doesn't know what she's doing. She's just doing. But yeah, I guess it is a cat and mouse, Beth. Thank you for
Yeah.
giving me those words. I will use those when I talk about it. I'm just starting to talk about it, as you know, so it's like
Yeah.
I haven't gotten my little pitch down yet. But yeah, it's
There's
definitely two women.
another novel that was by Jocelyn Jackson called Have You Ever? That's okay. It boils down to two women, and it's always who's on top. And
Okay.
this is kind of what I mean. I just could not stand this woman. I read it. I read the PDF that you sent me. Thank you for sending me that. She's so awful. She's another awful person, and she's just so darn full of herself. I just want to take her and break her neck. But then you're kind of rooting for wife number one. So
Yeah. Yes, but hopefully, because I wanted it to not be so obviously, the scorned first wife and the,
yeah,
new
so
second
cliche.
wife. Yeah, too cliche. So I had the idea, and then, through the process of things, hopefully you will find something again to like about Tish. She's scrappy, and she sees opportunity and she takes it, right?
Yeah,
So that's not, it is what it is. And then Kate as well has always been pretty strong of a fighter, the first wife. So I think they're very, what would I say, equal matches in a way. I mean,
that's
you
what
might
makes it
not
so
even
good.
realize.
That's what makes
Oh,
the
thanks.
turn is they're so equal in what they are. But you still
Yeah.
have, I mean, for the reader, I think, at least for me, when I'm reading a novel, I'm rooting for something to happen and someone to get on top finally in the end. Even when
Yes.
I'm watching TV shows, I'm trying to find who I'm rooting for because that's what keeps me glued to it. So, have
Right.
you had as far as pandemic TV? What are you watching?
Oh my gosh, so much stuff. I've never watched so much TV in my life. Okay, so currently up on deck, Your Honor has me pretty gripped. Have you watched that?
Me too. Oh my
Yeah.
god, I just got chills when you said that. We just started watching that. We're just on episode 3.
Oh, you're so lucky because we're all caught up because they come out once every Sunday. So
It's
it's
breathless. I mean,
yeah,
I almost like have to, have heart palpitations while I'm watching it. Do
it's
those
so good.
inspire you though in your writing that you want to get even darker than you've gotten? I know.
I mean, I did get really dark on one of my pandemic novels, and I was scaring myself. I would be up here, and then all of a sudden, I'm like, I gotta get out of here. So I'd go
Yeah.
downstairs. This guy, I had no idea he was gonna get that dark. So he might have been a little too dark for me. But anyway, yeah, no, I think I am dark enough. I think like, I don't know what shade of darkness I'm in, but like there's like really, really dark, like Your Honor's really, really dark.
Yeah.
So I'd like to stay a little lighter than that. But
Yeah.
yeah, but I
I
am
could ever
intrigued.
guess that you're dark because you're such a bubbly, quintessential California mom with the gorgeous children, and you're gorgeous, and Harley's gorgeous, and and then all of a sudden there's creepy Kara, hiding in the closet.
You just never know what's going on inside somebody's head.
Right, right. Let's talk about writing in first and third, and sometimes I get confused a little bit by that. I've had agents in the past and publishers say you really need to write this book in third person, and I always fight that. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I love first person.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's just so much more immediate for me. And I feel like the characters are more present in my head. So I'd like to always stick to that. I
mhm.
and I like reading that as well. I don't know. I don't know. How do
Yeah,
you feel?
me too. The
Yeah,
third person stuff doesn't really get it for me, and it doesn't really get it for me writing either because the
right.
voice is just not there. You know?
Yeah. And I mean, I did third person like in the earlier novels and everything. And I feel like it's almost like a process you go through to try to get more confidence in being actually right there on
Yeah,
the page.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's what helps us be a panster because it's like what they're doing, we don't know what they're doing,
we
so
have
we
no
have
idea.
to just kind of watch them as the writer. I totally get
Right.
that. So in back to the next wife, real quickly. You have alternating voices in this book. Have you ever done that before that you felt was, really cathartic for you? And the bigger question was, even when I was reading, I knew it because you did such a good job. And I want to ask you how you did that, how you got two women who are very similar in personality and very similar, driven, ambitious women, but you made them sound totally different. How hard was that for you, or was it?
Thank you. I mean, hopefully, I mean, again, because they're kind of with you while you're writing, you and they're both very driven, but they both have different goals and objectives, and they both came from very different backgrounds. So I think that helped too, just trying to always, when you're on the page writing the character that you're working on, whether it was Tish or Kate, trying to be so focused on what she would do because of her background, because of her story, because of her life, because of her objectives,
Mhm.
that that helps differentiate them. But yeah, that is a challenge to make sure they have different voices, different manners of speaking,
Yeah.
different phrases, all that good stuff.
It's all that good dialogue, and I go back to First Daughter, the dialogue between the driver and the mother was some of the most standout dialogue I've ever read. And I always
Aw,
remember those conversations because they were so spot on, literally just bullseye. So
aw, thank
that was really entertaining. Do you read your own genre? A lot of people
Oh,
like
I do.
what they write.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I love, I mean, I'm a voracious reader when I'm not in the draft phase because I don't want to get other people's words in my head. So right now because I'm drafting right now, I have like a whole stack of things that have come in that I haven't gotten to read yet, but I can't wait to be in my space when I send it away and I get to read and
Who do you like to read? And do you read other genres too? Historicals or anything?
I just ordered the Four Winds and I can't wait to start
It
that
just
about
came
the
in
Dust Bowl.
yesterday.
Yeah, and my grandmother survived the Dust Bowl. She lived in Texas, and I just remember her story so vividly. And I actually have an unpublished novel about the same topic, so I can't wait to read. I've always been riveted by the Dust Bowl and this colossal environmental disaster that was all our own making. Gosh,
Mhm.
just grief. Anyway, so that's there. But then I also, then I have, gosh, I can't even name. They're all over there, but like a stack of other novels by. There's so many great women writing in the suspense thriller category. It's so much fun, and not that there aren't great men too, but I just happen to think it's this amazing moment of woman power rising up and taking over this, not taking over, but just making a stand in the kind of thriller writer area. It's so
Yeah,
fun.
that's what I've been doing during pandemic is discovering all these psychological thrillers and discovering that I'm probably not that good at writing those things. That's been a rude awakening. But I'm still
Oh,
going to keep trying. Sometimes when you write things that are too near and dear to your heart, it sounds more, narrative rather than it should. Instead of full.
right. That's taking that step away, right? Or
Yeah, really, it's been really, really tough for me. And so I went back to
maybe
doing some rom coms. That's what I'm good at.
well, I think maybe more time too. I mean, I think with Paul, for example, in Best Day Ever, I didn't write about all of that stuff that happened to me back, in my job career days until it was settled and processed. And then they come out. Do you know what I mean? There was enough time and layers of things that it wasn't about their stories and it wasn't about those characters. It was that type of person that came to life on the page. So
Okay.
maybe
That's a
that's
really good point because some of the stuff is so recent. And so
yeah.
I was trying to. But anyway, it's still out there. I've got two agents reading, so we'll see what happens. But, many people are like, "Oh, you're so funny. Go back to the rom coms." And do you have rom coms you want to send me? And sure, I was going to tell you a writer that I really like that I've just discovered this week. Wendy, is it Wendy Walker?
Oh yeah, she's great.
Yeah, yeah. Her newest one, "Don't Look for Me," I think is what it's called. It's really
Yeah,
creepy. Do you think
really.
you'll ever go back and continue to write other genres? I know there's some writers that'll write under one name and another name, and then they just keep pumping out a couple books a year. How do you feel about that?
I would love to. Like I said, I would love to try historical fiction, but that's just a whole other brand of writing. 'Cause you really have to research and you have to have the terminology and the
Hard for
quote.
pantsers.
Yeah, not for cancer. So that would be a fun challenge for me someday to be able to really do what Kristen Hanna does like so well. Like how do you do that? So yeah, I would love to someday.
Well, your book comes out on May 1st, and it's called The Next Wife, pictures right over your shoulder. And I'm going to pull up my copies of your other two fabulous books that really were your breakout moments. And I love both of these books. The characters were the creepiest characters. I still say, even more so than Paul, that mother drove me nuts.
I know. She's
turning the pages because I'm like, no, she didn't. She didn't do that. Did she do that? Oh my God. So anyway, good job, Kaira. Oh my God, I love reading your work and love having you on. Thank you so much for being my guest today. Everybody stay peeled. Do you know when the pre-order date is for The Next Wife, or is it up yet?
It's up now.
Oh,
yeah, you can pre-order now.
Everybody go order The Next Wife if you like being creeped out and page turning and up all night reading. All right, Kaira, thank you so much.
Thank you, Beth. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're so welcome. We'll promote the heck out of it coming up for May 1st as well. Thank you all for joining us today. We really appreciate you guys being here. I'm Beth Albright, and this is the best book show ever.